What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Jordan, and we're back with another B3FL official podcast. Well, we've got another week in fantasy football. I'm sorry I missed last week. I ended up getting the COVID. Couldn't talk for most of the week. So, delayed the podcast. We've got another episode, and boy, do we have an episode this week. If you were living under a rock last week, you wouldn't have noticed, but there was some major drama. And we're going to break it all down for you. We've got an interview with the commissioner coming up. But I want to just set the stage so that in case you weren't aware of what was going on in the 14-team league, in the A League, it was madness. So let me pull up this real quick. And you know what? It started. There's been a problem in the league for a while. And it started in the offseason. Scott Newborough, the owner of Go Buffalo, was trading his draft, or basically he was trading his players away for but all the Buffalo players. And while I can say that, some of the trades were kind of sketchy, a lot of them were really egregious. At that time, because in the beginning of the year, the only value players have is basically what round they go in. That's kind of how you determine their actual value is round and seed. So like a first rounder versus second or third or fourth. Anyways, there were some trades that were very controversial at that time. And so Mike was on the receiving end of a swift crackdown by the commissioner in order to preserve integrity of the league. I feel bad for Mike because by the time his trade came through, it was a matter of just something had to be done, so it was blocked. And so, in protest of that, Mike ended up benching his whole team last week. This is still week 3. Mike ended up benching his whole team last week out of protest, except for the defense because, that's not Mike. Where's Mike? Hugh Day. Mike benched his whole team. In a stunning move, he played the Pittsburgh defense, which is fine. Didn't get him much points, but he wouldn't have won this game anyways. But he decided to lay a stamp down into this league saying, hey, you know what? The treatment I received was unfair. So we have an interview with the commissioner. I'm going to pull that up in just a few moments. But that is essentially how this is kind of unfolded. And it has caused some crazy controversy in this league. And I think it is important to address that for new players. This is kind of unprecedented. I've never seen this in the 14 team in the 12 or 14 years we've had this league. I have never seen this much craziness to start a year off. It makes for really good entertainment. But for fantasy football owners, we just want to come in, we do our business, we get out, get W's. That's what we do. So without further ado, I know you guys are all tuning in based on the commissioner's response. So let's get right to that interview. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am here with the commissioner of the B3FL. Jer, how you doing today?
Oh, we are doing great, man. So far, season's been fantastic. And I can't believe it's already staring down the barrel of week 4.
Exactly. It's been fast. There's been a lot going on over the last 4 weeks. A lot of stuff going on with Mr. Newborough. A lot of stuff going on with Mike Bell. And we wanted to give you the opportunity to share your side of everything that's going on around the league.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you having me on, by the way. It's always a pleasure. But with a league that's growing like we currently are, there's always lots of changes. There's lots of growing pains. And sometimes you've got to roll with some of the punches. So far, the year's been fantastic. It's been a little rocky at times. But I think we can all agree that undoubtedly at the end of the year, we will look back on this season as the year of the trade.
Oh, without a doubt. I think that I've talked about it off before you came on the show. I talked a little bit about what was going on. And it's just, It just feels like this year has been one trade after another that has just been continuously. I don't want to say one sided, but sketchy is going to be the word I use. Where it feels disingenuous.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I know it started off with the draft. I know there was a few trades that were going on with draft picks initially that really took up a few different teams. And then initially following the draft night, we had some numerous other trades. In fact, that before this year, we have never had a trade between the draft and the start of the regular season. Like it never happens. So this year has been really something else.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you to dive into. I know that the league has kind of been there's been a lot of controversy and it feels like a little bit of turmoil. So sitting in the commissioner seat, how did you view all of this going down?
Well, historically, like vetoing trades has not been a practice that we have had to use in the past. I can't remember the last time. It's been several years since we've had to veto a trade. Um, but first off, I'd like to thank Mike Bell and Bell's Trade and his entire organization for all his contributions to the league. He's an outstanding general manager, a former champion, and is a very valuable asset. Um, that being said, he has made it clear that the system is not perfect, and we are doing our best to improve that. Um, Starting with our human resource department, it's something that has been lacking throughout the last 10 years or 14 years, and now we realize that we might have to make some improvements and make some changes, and I think it will better off the entire league.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you're talking about changes, alluding to them. I know that there's been rumblings in the pipelines. Do you want to maybe clear what the up, maybe what some of those could be?
Yeah. Well, first off, I think we're going to, or we are going to introduce a trade commission, a party of about 7 people to head up these types of major decisions that will be reviewing all trades whenever controversy does um, arise. We will lean on them to make proper decisions. Although I would like to stress that uh, although trades this year have been viewed as very controversial, this is not something that's unusual. And I would just like to restate that honestly, we know nothing about fantasy football. Last year, we had another trade that was centered around Bell's trade that sent Jonathan Taylor and T. Higgins for Saquon Barkley and Tyreek Hill. At the time, Jonathan Taylor was going absolutely nuts, and if this trade was viewed as a little one-sided. Looking back at last season, T. Higgins actually scored the most points between that trade and the end of the season. So what you think we know, we don't know. And that's why it makes it really hard to judge which trades are good and which trades are bad. Now, that being said, I firmly believe that the top echelon of players, the top 20 players, do in fact swing the league. Those are the players that we know are going to be good and we know are valuable assets. So those are the players that will be um, monitored specifically throughout the upcoming season.
That's a great point. I think it's worth reiterating that there could be essentially garbage players on your team that it might be um, when you look at like the absolute value of points differential. If you're trading eighth and like sixth and seventh of your best, like the in terms of your best players 1 to 10, you trade your fifth to 10th best player. Honestly, even if it's lopsided, the point differential is probably not that big because our league is so big. Is that kind of how
Yeah.
you see it?
Yeah, absolutely. And like the 14 man, especially that those elite players on your roster, you really only get 2 players. Your first 2 picks are the players that are going to carry your team. And then everybody else, like, we're not really sure who's going to be good. There's always those late round or late season league winners that somebody picks up off free agency, like the Patriots defense or, somebody like that that'll lead you to a championship. So the goal is not to monitor the league. Like, the commission is not going to be directing the league. Like, people are still going to get screwed over. We love active managers. That's the most important thing. We want everybody involved in the league. We want contributions. We want trades. We want people talking about the league. So that's not the goal of the commission, but it will be something that we can lean on when controversy does present itself.
That's excellent. And so in terms of logistics, you said that there's going to be 7 people. It's just random, more or less?
We're going to try and create a team of 7 players that represent the entire league. So from different groups, I know we have people all over the country, so we might have people in different spots of the country, different time zones. But we're going to try and create like a diverse group of individuals that will be able to accurately represent the entire 24-man operation that we have going.
That's perfect. That sounds like progress, right? And then I guess to wrap things up, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on in regards to all the controversy that's going on, or is it kind of covered everything?
I would just like to point out that especially the activity following draft night, we still have an ongoing investigation. We have our best people on the case, and we will be updating the league as more information becomes present to us.
Awesome. All right. So with that out of the way, your team, your poor fantasy team last week, kind of shit themselves. Saw you made a bunch of moves. What are your thoughts moving into the second or the last 60? It's like we're like a third of the year through. So what are your thoughts from this point moving forward?
Oh, I think we're good. I'm not too worried about it. I would love to have that week 1 game against Matt Daly back. But moving forward, I think we're in good shape.
Was it harder to lose to Matt or to Jake?
Matt, every week. Matt. That guy. Oh, man. But because he's so positive about it, it just grinds my gears.
I get it. I feel you. There's certain people that are hard to lose to. Matt's one, and Jake's probably number 2.
I know. They had good weeks, so I'll give it to them.
Good teams this year.
They had good teams. They had good weeks. I don't know about good teams, but we'll see. I'd love to see them in the playoffs.
That's awesome. All right, well, we're not going to take up any more of your time. I know it's precious. Long weekend, so we're going to get some relaxing in. But thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Jordan. And fins up.
Fins up, baby. Fins up.
Woohoo!
All right, so let's break down what happened in the A-League last year. Obviously, we have the Mike and Matt fiasco. And we're going to talk a little bit more because there are some crazy repercussions from that game. But, I can't start off the A-League without talking about Jake Grew. And you know what? His team has been on fire lately. Both the last week and the week before that, he was putting up well over 100 points, which is more than enough to win every single game this year. And his team has looked really strong, despite coming out with a loss on the very first game. He was playing Jer, obviously, bitter rival, loves winning that game. It means a lot to him. It means a lot to the players. They came out with an intensity, and you know what? Jer was he was caught a little off guard by how quick Jake came out here today. I have some stats because obviously Jake was the best performer this week and Jer was the worst. So Jake, your team scored 120 points, but 60 of those points came from 2 players alone, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Now, Derrick Henry is a perennial all-star. He's always in the first 5 picks. Lamar Jackson this year has been going nuts. It's been absolutely bananas what he's been doing on the football field. So you've gotten crazy production out of these 2 guys. and you've gotten decent production out of the rest. And so when I look at your team as a whole, this week you were carried by these two, but like it's very much so that you could be carried by Tony Pollard moving forward because Ezekiel Elliott's not getting the same amount of carries. Jalen Waddle's been doing amazing with Tua and Tyreek Hill. I love to see the battle between these two teams, whereas Hill on one side and Waddle on the other. Obviously, if you're a Dolphin fan, it's a good time to be alive after they crushed the Bills this week, and I say crushed the Bills. As that Bills offensive coordinator was slamming his headset down into the dirt. But yeah, you know what, Jer? This was just like Jake was just.
I will send you to Jesus.
He was sending you to Jesus, man, because you only scored 53 points. If we're gonna we can do some quick maths here. If we take the Chargers D, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Evan Engram, and Greg Joseph, these 5 players totaled for 7.5 points. It's pitiful. Last week was not a great showing for your team, and I think you took that to heart. I hope to see that this turns around because usually fairly decent fantasy football player, usually in playoffs, usually chokes in playoffs somewhere around the first or second round. But not all of us can be winners like Matt Daly. So that was one of the big rivalry games this week. They both teams. Well, one team looked really good. The other team looked like crap. And you know what? Jake let us have it in the chat this week. He's been now touting his team as the best all time, even though we know that was probably my team last year. But yeah, so this was great to watch. It's I love when two competitive people are put against each other. It looks really good. So if we have the best performer with Jake, the worst performer with Jer, we have our close game alert, which was my game with Grugel. Grugel was 0-2 going into this, and I was 1-1. And so I ended up taking the W. My second and third round picks were deemed out. Obviously, Mike Evans after slamming. Who's that corner from the Saints? Oh, come on. I know what his name is. Anyways, after basically slamming him down and punching him, and he got suspended for a game. And Keenan Allen was out with a hamstring injury. So I called on Russell Gage at the very last minute while I was out for brunch, because God forbid you can't start a nobody in one of your spots. So I thank Julia for letting me quickly find a receiver to sub in. And you know what? Russell Gage, he stole the win for me. It was a terrible showing. Austin Eckler's been an absolute bust. But yeah, you know what? Not much more I can say. We had kind of abysmal performances out of my flex and my tight end, but you know what? It was equally abysmal from Grugel, and that's kind of what you get when you get these close games, is that neither side really gets an edge in any one particular area. So, but yeah, like you can see from our benches, it was kind of just like garbage down here. Grugel could have started Jesse Palmer, and that would have been a difference maker, because he would have had to start him in the flex. I don't know if you want to start him over Kareem Hunt, but you could have. And that would have been a difference maker. I actually maxed out my total points because everything is just because I'm a coaching extraordinaire. But yeah, squeaked out a win. I'm happy to win this one. Grugel's now 0-3 and is in a tight spot because we're coming down the stretch into the middle of the season ish, because we play 14 games. So at week 4, we're done like a third ish, almost a little over a third of the year. So all these games really matter. It's no longer just the beginning of the season anymore. And lastly, there's a game down here. I had my eye on it. It was Tom versus Zach. Tom has been struggling. He had a draft which I wasn't a big fan of. He went running back heavy, and all of the running backs he chose have now kind of been busts. He chose Eli Mitchell, which would have been a great running back, but he's hurt. Travis Etienne, who's been kind of supplanted as the lead back. pretty close to. They very much split with James Robinson and Darnell Henderson. And it sucks, he went running back. And so now he's kind of weathering the storm. These receivers are just not able to keep up with the oppositions, and the decent running backs he does have haven't been performing up to what he should have expected of them coming into this year. Alvin Kamara has not had the stellar year that he's had in past seasons. 4 points, then he was hurt, and then he had 5 points. Not great. There's a bunch of top running backs this year that have just kind of been busts. Austin Eckler is another one, and it's a tough pill to swallow because now he's 0-3. He's fighting for his life down at the bottom, and he's kind of blessed with the matchup this week, and we'll go into that later. But he played Zach, who has been playing solid fantasy football. He's got a bunch of wins under his belt now. I think he's 2-1. He's getting around 100, sometimes over 100 points a game, which is all you can ask for. That's just hard-nosed, solid fantasy football. He has Jamal Williams on the bench, which you would never have expected 20 points out of a backup running back. But I think that Zach is playing well. Tom, you've got a lot of room for improvement, especially once your guys start coming back, and maybe it takes your running backs a little while to get into it. You got to give them a pep talk, let them know what's going on, because this is just, it's crushing. And Tom is just, he's all in his feels right now. I think he's looking at his draft and just saying, I can't. It's just the shitty cards he's been dealt with. So, I think that's basically it. Look, that's the A-League. Pretty good rundown. I think I have to shout out Jordan Ivany. I think his team, despite being 1-2, I think they look good. There's a whole bunch of middle pack. The divisions this year are shaping up rather one-sided. Looks like fake Jakes are kind of starting to run away with it a little bit. A whole bunch of people sitting at 2-1. The only person who's still undefeated is Matt Daly, right? And I think Matt Daly was gifted a win this week, but and I can say that with almost absolute authority, because Jake ran the numbers, I ran the numbers. Almost every configuration of Mike's bench actually would have outperformed Matt. He would have had to play the all of the exact lowest people, and if he just switches out one or two people for a higher scoring, he wins, right? Because Matt only scored 89 points. So, I think Matt was gifted a win. So he is the rightful champ at the top of the hill. He won it last year. He's 3-0 this year, undefeated. So he's won 1, 2, at the very least, the 3 playoff games last year and the 3 games this year. He's on a 6-game winning streak. It could be longer. I don't know. I didn't go into that. My stats guy is on vacation this week, so we're working on it. We're working on it. So that's the 14-team league. We're gonna move down to the B League, and hold on. Oh no! Oh, that's the wrong sound. Anyways, damn. I was hoping to play this one while we switch. Right, a little sweet little elevator music for you. We're gonna go into week 3. So, a quick wrap up. Papa T, man, you know what? Again, slow start to the year. This year, again, ramping things up. Just picking up from where you left off last year, and your team has been crushing it. You're getting 120-ish points a week, and there's not much more you can ask for out of your guys. I mean, you asked them to step up after a slow week 1, and oh boy, did they ever step up. I mean, it's crazy. It's just been so crazy to watch your team come around from such a low point in week 1 to now being the highest scoring team, I think 2 weeks in a row in this league. I might be corrected by that, and you guys will correct me in the chat, because it must be a pastime because everything I put out is just like unbelievably scrutinized. So, but yeah, so Papa T, you were the worst, and Dan. This was the trash bowl down here. We had King Hendy versus Osama bin Laden, and which is probably the best fantasy football name I have ever heard. Now, look, Hendy, you had a great job. You were led by Derrick Henry, of course, Henry and Hendy, a match made in heaven. And Dan, you know what? You were not led by anybody. Justin Herbert's been a bit of a letdown this year. And oh no, he's not. Hey, never mind. I was wrong. I say that because Keenan Allen was a little bit of a letdown. And so has Austin Eckler. But apparently Justin Herbert is still slinging the rock and doing just fine. This was an off game. Montgomery going down. That's a huge loss, especially if you don't have Hebert. I don't know if it's Herbert or if it's Hebert, like French. Very well could be French. But I think I'm going to go with Herbert because it sounds like the least football player last name I've ever heard. And then, Jamar Chase, who was a rock star for me last year, again, just not pulling it. You swung big on Allen Robinson this year. I saw you dropped like 40 free agent budget points on him or something, or 30, maybe 20. It was a lot. And truthfully, I don't like spending that much on any players, unless you have a situation like let's say Ezekiel Elliott gets hurt and Tony Pollard is on the waiver wire. That's an instant pickup. And yeah, go out. I mean, Dan, you're forced to take risks because now you're sitting at 0-3. But don't lose hope. There's still a lot of games left. Be patient. You only need to win so many games. And I'm gonna put the number if there's 7 games, if there's 14 games in the league, if you win 7, you make playoffs. I don't see a world where you win half of your games and you miss playoffs. And even then, if it's 7, you could probably win 6. You might be able to win 5. 5 might be pushing it. But if you win 6 or 7, you're going to be in, right? The only way you're not in at 7 is that if everybody basically has 7 wins, which is not going to happen. So that's the kind of the number you're shooting for. And if you guys are taking notes at home, you're looking for 7 wins. Once you're at 7, you're basically in playoffs in this bottom league. The top league is very different because it's just a fewer percentage of people make playoffs. But because it's so deep, 8 out of 10. So, 7 out of 10. So, so Dan, you sucked. Montgomery, Robinson, and James Judy all not doing it for you last week. It sucks. It sucks watching teams perennially lose. I want to build this league to be a little bit better, so that way everybody's like competitive. It's hard watching some people just suck every single year. So Dan, we're cheering for you up in the top league. I'm telling you right now. So close games. There was one close game last week. And actually, it was very close. We have Nate with the Canada Thunder versus Kalen with Shetland United FC. Kalen, you got to send me a message, dude. I don't know what this name means. I must be out to lunch on something. But it sounds funny. It's almost like Shitland, but it's not. So if you could let me know what that means, that would be great. Just post in the chat because I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who's a little confused. All right, Canada Thunder. You ended up eking out a win here. Yeah, you had a big game by Nick Chubb, who was able to offset Matt Stafford not having so much of a stellar game, and then you got huge production out of AJ Brown last week. I continue to see that going forward. The Eagles surprised me this year. I didn't think that they were going to be that good. I've always discount NFC East teams. They make me like I have to see it to believe it. Because first, I mean, they're traditionally over the last 5 years, their division has been the weakest as they had both the Redskins and the Giants. And the Eagles have been on and off bad. They had the Super Bowl run, and then they went real bad and now it looks like they just rebounded somehow, and Jalen Hurts is the man. I saw him squatting 650 pounds in college. Like, that's crazy. Anyways, that's not the reason why they're winning. The reason why they're winning is because they're actually just a good, solid football team. And I believe it. I bought in. They're a good team. I've seen a lot of people talk about Super Bowl contenders. That might be a stretch. That could be the NFC East media pushing the hype. That's the other problem that I don't like. Why they don't like the NFC East is just there's a lot of hype around these teams. They have a lot of money to spend into the media budget versus a team like, let's say the Bengals last year had a pretty great roster, and you didn't really hear about them until they had to start beating other teams. But like guys like Dallas immediately always are like, oh, maybe how deep do you think Dallas runs? It's like, you know what? They're not that great of a team. They're lucky that they're just they were in a shit division. Glad to see that there's a little more competition. Anyways, rant over. Yeah, because that was that was boring. All right. So this is the close game. You know, when you're talking about less than a point, man, those late night games are absolute nail biters. You love seeing it. Did we have any guys on the Monday night game? Doesn't look like it. No, there was nobody on the Monday night game, so probably would have been the Sunday night where you're just like clenching your butthole and holding on. So yeah, and then I guess we already talked about Dan a little bit, but you know what? This is the bottom of the barrel in terms of. I actually really like this game. I was keeping a close eye on it because you know what? I do want to see who the weakest team is out of all of them. It's too bad. Andy, dude, I like that your team is coming around. It's slowly turning around. You're still missing some pieces. You're missing a second RB, like a second real RB. You have some guys who are out, but yeah, that's like a one piece that you absolutely need. And with Hopkins on the bench, you know, maybe it's worth, you know, maybe soliciting, seeing who's out there for a player who will come into playoffs, because you have so many games left and you need to win almost all of them. Right? Like you're probably going to have to win a decent chunk now to get into playoffs. So maybe it's worth selling the future for the now in your scenario versus a team like Connor Pico, who's 3-0. You know, this guy's been crushing it, and maybe he hangs on and he sits back and he's like, you know what? I can actually take a couple L's in the short term, so that way long term I get more W's. Right? I think Tom was trying to take that strategy earlier with taking so many running backs and going so short on receivers. He's lucky that he had so many running backs because based on injuries and mishaps and whatever. Not that he's lucky because he's 0-3. But that was the strategy he was using, and I think I like that. I'm kind of bought in on it. The one thing about this Connor Pico team is, and Zach Tickle was the same. I wasn't sold on Cordell Patterson. I eat my words. That was a mistake. That was just
emotional damage.
Yeah, it feels bad when I was just like, you know what, Cordell Patterson, I didn't see their offense clicking. I didn't see them scoring a lot of points. And now looking back, I'm like, you know what? They're going to play soft teams. They're going to have an easy schedule. He's going to get all of the touches because he's the only guy there. I was worried about this number right here. That's a big number. He's on the other side of 30, and literally basically how running backs go, it's like this, it's like this. It could be up too, but as soon as 30 comes, it's like this, and then it's just straight down. There will be one season, maybe he gets hurt, maybe he doesn't, maybe he just doesn't like to play anymore, and all of a sudden it just drops. Happy that he's getting some recognition because he spent a long time in Minnesota. So I'm gonna eat my words on that one. That was a mistake by me. Zach and Connor, you guys both picked those guys up. So, look at this. Lastly, you know what? This is part of my favorite section. We're going to get to the awards. And the award ceremony wouldn't be complete if we didn't start with the Flamin' Hot Cheetos Player of the Week. Because, man, There's one team that I do have to say, and they're blowing everybody out of the water. He's let everybody know it's definitely Jake Crew. Man, this guy has been on fire. Lamar Jackson leading the way has been just unstoppable. This dude has just been lights out since he started playing, and Jake has capitalized. Right, he's scoring 120 points. He's led both leagues in scoring last week. I think he might have done it the week before. He definitely led our league in scoring. I don't know if he led the other one. And this man has just been on a tear. And you know what? In all fairness, he's been letting us know. It's been a wild ride watching this dude because he very deliberately tries to play the villain. He wants controversy. He wants to shake things up. He wants people to not know what to do next or what he's going to do. He wants to be the guy that everybody likes to beat. He's doing a pretty good job at it, if I can say, but just brutally honest. He's playing right, and he's getting everybody riled up a little bit, and he's getting under their skin. And you know what? It's hard to play a team that plays tough fantasy football. It gets underneath your skin, gets you to play emotionally, and then you make mistakes. And so this is going to be a huge week. Watching Rick, a newcomer, trying to take on the King. I don't think that this is going to happen. Jake's team has just been rolling so well. So I don't think that Rick's team is quite strong enough. I think that there could be some moves to be made. I like Mike Thomas coming back. Aaron Jones, I think, I don't know if he was hurt last week. Not sure. Had a huge week 2 weeks ago, but I didn't get to comment on that because, of course, I was sick. So, Flamin' Hot Cheetos, Player of the Week. Congrats, Jake. You've definitely earned it. But this next award is the sexiest team of the week, and I go to the B League for this one. And honestly, I look at this roster that Connor Pico has put together, and it's looking sexier and sexier. He's got the number one QB. He's got a running back from a dynamite offense. Cordell Patterson, who I thought was a bust, has turned out very much not to be a bust. We've got Justin Jefferson and Devontae Adams. Justin Jefferson had an off week last week. I expect him to bounce back against New Orleans. It's not an easy matchup because actually the New Orleans DBs are actually very good. But I think that based on his track record, I think we give him a pass. He's got a top 5 tight end. He's got a first round wide receiver in Devontae Adams. You know what? This guy has put together a very solid team. And then lastly, he's got James Robinson, who's been slowly inching his way back into fantasy relevance after totally disappearing 3 years ago. So, you know what? This team has definitely earned the sexiest team of the week. So, what a time. What a time. Okay. Next, we have the... Oh, yeah. Oh, right. This is a new section. See, very light. It's very faint. It's the chirp of the week. We're going to pull up... in here. It was... Where was it? Oh. So, there was a lot... We were all getting pretty fired up this week. But I have to say, Jake coming in here, and I'm going to just read it verbatim in case you missed it. Jake goes, deja vu. Actions speak louder than words, boys. I told you it would happen, and the B League, I beat all you losers too. I am winning this thing. Once a purr boy, always a purr boy. I am perfection and will continue to show you how it's done. Cock thinking winning. Not sure what that means. That was a bold statement to end a very, very powerful speech. I don't know if you ever wanted to get into writing, but I think you should. And of course he posts a little graphic saying, just jerking himself off a little bit. Alex goes, I've never heard anyone say I am perfection before. I've also never heard that. That's a niche market. Weebs would probably get it. And then Matt hits him with the I am perfection. The cat licking its own balls was good. Jake right now with the Stan's dad just covered in jizz. That was good. The Jake humping the mirror to himself. These are all great. I love this. I can't wait to see how Jake now ranks. The Pico Power rankings that was mentioned in here. You know what? That's a good point. Can't wait to see it. Anyways, these are the trips of the week. The three lads coming in huge after Jake's beatdown. I just think it's funny. Matt is now 3-0, and no one, you haven't heard him brag once. This guy's a winner. He's been there before. He's been to the dance. Jake is all right. Well, you know what? Good luck to you moving forward, because everybody is now not cheering for you that much. All right. That is the chirp of the week. In terms of idiot of the week, I look. You know what? Oh.
What are you? An idiot sandwich.
Yeah. You know what? There's no way. Look, large part of me is like, you know what, Mike, because you didn't start anybody, but you can't because it was a political decision, right? I looked through the rosters. I didn't really see anybody. There's a lot of zeros on the board. I think it has to go to Jer. I think the idiot of the week goes to Jer purely because he started the most amount of losers. It could also be Dan, but I think that this was just crazy. You didn't. The other thing is that there are some people who, the idiot of the week normally goes to either you didn't start someone who you probably should have, or you started someone who should have been on the bench. And there wasn't that many of those because the league's getting a little bit better now. But and maybe I change that award. Maybe I swap it out for something else. If you guys have ideas, let me know. But I think the combination of all of these guys earns you the idiot of the week. It's just a colossal failure at this point. Like,
what are you doing, step bro?
That was basically Jared to his whole team today or last week, or to Jake, I guess, in that sense. Just getting absolutely hammered. It is what it is. Yeah. So, I do have a new one this week, and so we'll debut the sound for it because it's actually sick.
Wall Street, Wall Street, Wall Street, Wall Street, Wall Street, Wall Street, Wall Street,
All right.
Now my stock rising, got the eyes on me. Wall Street.
Yeah. So this one is the I'm gonna call it the Wall Street Mover of the Week, and this one is going to be determined on whoever I'm seeing is making moves in a very positive direction. So I do have to shout out Jared this week. He took a really big beatdown last week, and so he came out this week guns blazing. So we're going to look at his team this week. You know who, this is still week 3. Of course it is. We're going to look at his team this week. I went through the whole waiver wire. I went through it all. And there was a lot of big pickups. Right? Like Kyrie's Bear was out there. Jamal Williams was out there. Alexander Madison. These guys are huge pickups. However, just picking someone up off the waiver wire is not enough to win this award. This dude was making moves. You know who's gone? Tyreek Hill scored 3.4 points last week. He's out. He traded fantasy free agent budget for Zach Ertz. So now what he's done is he grabbed Leonard Fournette for that for Tyreek Hill and some points, and then used those points to grab Zach Ertz. You know what? That is the kind of thinking that will change a season around real fast, because now Jared shored up his running back situation a little bit, and he got rid of a player who was kind of struggling in an offense that had too many weapons. I like teams that score a lot, but like I think last week, you know, it's going to be a double-edged sword, because, like, yeah, you know what? Jalen Waddle can come out and score 20 points, and Tyreek Hill could score 3. Or the opposite. Or, God forbid, they actually run the ball like they did last week, and Chase Edmonds scored 2 touchdowns. He vultured 2 touchdowns away from those guys. So, anyways, Jared moved Tyreek out. He traded for Ertz, and then he swaps out his kicker. You know what? Those are the kinds of moves that I think are going to progress you forward. Jared is also now sitting on Raheem Mostert, who is starting to take the carries away from Chase Edmonds. And if you have Mostert on your bench, you're probably looking at it being like, you know what? By the end of the year, he might be the lead back down there. I think Chase Edmonds had way more red zone touches, especially under the 5-yard line. Watching that game, he was basically the number one back in there when they were running the ball inside the 5. So his Edmonds' value is still tethered to TDs, which is fine because they score a lot. But Mostert looks like he might be, like inching closer and closer to taking a little bit more carries. You can see that his snap count percentage is getting higher and higher. I know this attempts is in the red, but you know what? Honestly, the Dolphins don't run that much. And I think the last 2 weeks they're also playing from behind, right? And they needed to pass the ball to keep up. So they had great games. But yeah, so this is my fantasy mover, Wall Street mover of the week. I think I like this going forward. It takes a little bit more research, but I think it's good. Lastly, we have the danger zone. And so this is somebody who should be 3-0. They sat all their players last week, and it's Mike Bell. Mike, you know what? I like your team. I think you've got a very solid roster, but I am starting to fall in love with Ivany's team. It's gritty. It's down to earth. It's hard-nosed football. It's Jonathan Taylor leading the way, Tua Tagovailoa slinging the rock, and I can see that this team is progressing to be a real top contender. Kyrie Bear, Herbert, Khalil. Why am I saying Kyrie? There must have been a Kyrie Bear. Oh, Kyrie Bear. He played in the CFL. My bad. Khalil Herbert. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. That was a mistake. Only someone who watches both leagues religiously would follow that. Anyways, with the injury to David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert is now a stud. He's gonna carry the rock, and I think it was very evident last week that he could probably take David Montgomery's job, and it shows that I think as your flex guy, he's a perfect start this week. Mike, dude, I would be a little worried in here, mainly because your running back situation is not it's not great. There are some things that we gotta shore up a little bit. DeAndre Swift was maybe hurt, but you're really heavy on receivers. You might want to start looking for trades. I know that there are some players who have banked up a lot of them. Looking at Jer, and I'm looking at Tom, and you know what? All of a sudden, Jer and Tom could be in the hot seats. They had off weeks last week, but all of a sudden now, with some teams really just trying to make it to that 6 or 7 game win streak, to win 7 games. In this league, I'm going to say 8, just to be fair. You win 8 games, you're probably in. And I could see, those two guys hold a lot of power. Mike, maybe it's worth a call. I know that some of your trades this year have been iffy, to say the least. But I think it's worth the shout out to say, hey guys, I need running backs because that team looks like it's bleeding. Especially it'll bleed on bye weeks. So we now come to the end of the show. Woo, this is a long one. 35 minutes in. This is it. Okay, we've got our game of the week. And who could it be? I gotta go to next week. Oh, this is next week. Where are you? Honestly, it's the bottom of the 0-3 teams. I love the fact that we get relegated. I think it adds such an interesting dynamic to the bottom half of the league, and these two guys are pounding it out. This is going to be a matchup that will set the tone for the rest of the year. You have the two bottom players, and one of them needs a little bit of momentum to keep moving forward, to make sure that they're not relegated, to keep the dream alive. There's still a lot of people at 1 and 2. There's not that many 0 and 3, and there's not that many 3 and 0. You need, as long as you just keep up with the middle of the pack, you're going to be okay. So, Tom, and you're going to need big games from Kyler Murray, Nick Chubb, and Alvin Kamara. There's no way around it. Those are your lead dogs. I don't see you winning without big games from all 3 of those players because your receiving core isn't as good as it could be. Grugel, you gave me a hard time last week. I was somehow staggering just to get over top of you. Couldn't maintain composure. I thought I had it in the bag after the 1 p.m. games, and you fought diligently to come back in. And that kind of fight doesn't go away. I'm nervous watching your team. I was nervous watching it all last week. This week, it's gonna be a team effort. You know, Dalvin Cook is questionable. I've seen reports that they're leaning to more out than questionable. But a lot of things can change. Painkillers are an amazing thing. Everybody needs to do more drugs. That's just how football is. But yeah, if you're going to beat Tom, you're going to need a team effort. Tom put in Chris Olave, who's been a rock star, actually. I didn't realize that he was dropped so many times. I've been looking at this guy for a long time, and just like, anyways, I think this is a good pickup for you, Tom. I think this kind of balances out that receiving core a little bit. So yeah, Grugel, you're gonna need all your guys to step up here. But that is it for this week's show, guys. There was a lot going on, lots of drama. Can't wait for next week. So, anyways, that's it. Peace.